Namaste, everyone. I'm Riva, and this is Scientist Meets Spirituality. Specifically, we're going to talk about what Namaste means, and I'll give you a little background on who I am and where this is all coming from. So, I myself have my PhD in biomedical research, and I did my postdoc. I've done all the sciencey stuff, and I think in my past life as a scientist has stayed with me somewhere in my heart. I think we still stay scientists, even if we are in an office now and we've long left the lab. So, people will ask me a lot of the times, how did you even fall down this whole spirituality thing being a scientist? That's not very sciencey. And the truth is, there's so much that connects science and spirituality. And a lot of scientists, a lot of great scientists, including myself, we have a lot of beliefs that may fall into that spiritual side of things. And some scientists are religious and they do science. And so I think there is a way for each person to find their own blend of science and spirituality. And I want to share kind of my experience with this whole topic because it's something that people may not see scientists talking about normally. And I just want to give my take on things because over the last several years, I've kind of gone through this process of undoing a lot of what I once knew and opening my mind, becoming more receptive to different ways of being, different ways of thinking. And I feel like it's helped me to grow a lot. And I want to share some of what I've learned in the course of my falling down rabbit holes of, all of this spirituality stuff and give you guys another way, another perspective of understanding this. And you can always decide for yourself what you want to believe and what feels good for you. I think that's a big part of all of it is accepting what each one of us chooses to come to the table with. So I told you we were going to talk about what namaste means. And I myself actually I am I am Indian and I have you would figure I'd know what that means, but it wasn't until the past several years that I actually learned what it means, and I'll share kind of what it means to me specifically and some variations on this. So namaste is a common greeting, and if you actually just look this up on Google or something, that's what it'll be called. It's just a greeting that, people might share as like a hello sort of. But it means so much more than that. The direct translation is something to the effect of the divine in me bows to the divine in you. And the essence of that, I think, is captured well with another way of phrasing it, which is what I often will say as the closing of my classes of the Slothy Lama podcast. It's the light in me sees and honors the light in you. And I think that's a very beautiful way of phrasing it. It's so much more than just a hello. I think, you can definitely say it's a hello. It's treated in that respect by many people, but it has this so much more expansive feeling to it if you choose to allow it to. I don't think there's any right or wrong way of using it. I think that everyone has the right to choose to use it as either a greeting or maybe something a little bit more empowering and a little more meaningful, but there's no correct way to use this. So namaste is, to me, something that says in a very powerful way, this incredible light, this unique light that is me, sees and respects and accepts this beautiful, unique light that is you. And it's such a lovely way of thinking of think of like ships passing in the sea. They don't need to hit each other and collide. They can see one another, see the beautiful light that they both hold, and simply pass one another and keep going on their way. Perhaps they want to meet, perhaps they want to interact and engage, and maybe they do that, or maybe they just continue on their separate ways. I think that this is actually a value that could be so incredible if brought forward in the workspace and in life with friends, with family. Especially in the past years, I've seen so much disruption of friends and family and relationships for a number of reasons. Some that were of choice, some that were not. And a lot of it has come down to beliefs and views that each individual hears and feels and has owned as their own. Some of this detachment, some of this disruption of relationships has been anything from health related topics. It's been related to politics. I see this a lot with politics. I feel like when I was younger, there was a time where I saw more, I think there's always been kind of this back and forth with people who have different political views. But I thought that maybe when I was younger, I saw a different pattern where people could hear each other, could be playful, could argue. Someone might get a little bit too ruffled feathers and walk away, but people generally still stayed friends, they still stayed family members. And these days I see a lot of very major divide happening. And it's not just limited to politics, it's any topic that comes up often in the news. But even if it's not, there's just things that people disagree on. And what I see is less of the ability to stay in the same space and see one another and hear one another, and more of a need to divide and separate from one another completely. And not just for the conversation. And I respect that, because sometimes, even if I don't agree with what someone might be saying, or I'm not really comfortable with it, it's not to say that I don't ever speak my mind. I just tend to allow others to speak their mind as well, and recognize that we each have a divine light in us that is flavoring our unique experience in life, and we're allowed to have those unique divine lights. And so, we may leave the room and may not want to hear what the other wants to say necessarily, but we still come back together again the next day. We still have conversations about anything else that we want to talk about. We don't dissolve a friendship because we have differences of seeing things. And I have no reason to want to control anyone or how you choose to react or respond or behave with people in your life. If you choose to solidify on the divide as the only answer, I respect you. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. And that's what it's all about. It's not making someone wrong for believing something different. It is allowing for their view to exist in the world, to coexist in the world, whether we agree or see the same lens of life or not. And I think, and I'm not saying, we need to have everyone say namaste at work. I realize, as I said that earlier, it probably flavored your image of what I was talking about a little that way. I think, you can use namaste whenever you wish to. You can say the light in me sees and honors the light in you. You could say the divine in me bows to the divine in you. I don't mean to say we even need to say those things in the workspace or with friends and family. I just mean maybe we play that language out in our minds as we're having conversations that are more challenging and difficult, and that are more disruptive and edgy. And remember that, I'll bring up a little topic that I try to be playful with. There's this idea of mind controls, like, controlling someone's mind. And no one wants to engage in mind control. I think everyone would collectively, most people would say, I would never want to control someone else's mind. I don't control people's minds, or I don't try to do that. Or that's not my agenda. That's not my goal. But the truth is, what happens when one person wants another person to think differently, or is trying to convince them? And no disrespect to speaking your side of the story or your side of the political debate, and wanting to convince, and all of the things, and having the intention to share with, to get someone to change and come over to your side. But I want you to remember that as you are doing this, your ultimate goal is to change the mind, to control the mind of the person you are now debating with. And while I'm not blaming, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's something to be curious about and to be observant about in yourself. I used to do this a lot more, and I still catch myself doing it. it's this idea that, and I use mind control because as the example, because it sounds kind of extreme, but at the same time, it's accurate. It's wanting someone to think the way you think. It's the way you think may not be bad, and you might have 1,000 reasons and papers and rationale for why your viewpoint is correct. But at the same time, if you have trouble allowing that other individual to think differently than you, think the opposite of you, then your ultimate aim is to control that individual's mind. If all you're trying to do is force all, and I don't mean force in like a negative way, but if you're forcefully trying to state and convince a whole bunch of parts of the story that are what you think, with the ultimate goal, again, not to be seen and heard, because I think there's a very different energy that comes to the table, that you come to the table with when you want to speak your truth without the intention to control what the other person is thinking on the other side of the table. That's not how we're trained when we're younger. We even have debate team. I was on the debate team. Like, we're taught ever since we're younger to try to convince the other side that we're right and to win. And that might work in debate, and there's nothing wrong with debate. I think there's a healthy place for that, and I think it's a fantastic thing to do. And there's a great sport there. But at the same time, with the rest of life, that's not really all of life, in my perspective, is not to be a debate. It's not to be fighting with each other. It's not to divide friendships and families and to control one another. It's to coexist together as unique individuals who are so beautiful and incredible, because it is the diverse thought that we all have that has created this incredible humanity and community that we see today before us. The incredible structures, the buildings, the systems, the art, the support systems for other countries, the organizations to provide relief in natural disasters, all of these incredible things, also some devastating things, but all of this culmination of this rich environment that we get to enjoy as humans on this planet today has come from a diverse set of thoughts over decades and decades and years and years and years, and so much time, that has evolved and coexisted together and given us all of these different colors, all of these different flavors, all of these different experiences. And if we all thought the same way, we wouldn't have such a beautiful, diverse world to explore, cultures to learn about and to enjoy. And what I encourage people to do is to, rather than default to maybe how we've been trained for a lot of our lives, to debate and divide and to try to convince and win. Nothing wrong with winning. But what if we approach the table with our loved ones, our friends, our family, with an open mind of, I am here to present my view. I want to share. I'm so passionate about this idea, this political concept, this social concept, this thing that's going on in our region or our city. And I'm here to share it because I'm so passionate about it and it's important to me. And I would love for you to hear this and be seen and be witnessed for my point of view, but not to need the other person or the group you're speaking with to think differently because of what you're sharing. What a different way of being that is. Just consider it. Play with that idea in your head. What if you didn't have an agenda when you went to share your perspective? What if you presented it as a showcase of your beliefs, and then you were open to hold and you're asking your loved ones to hold space for you, to hear you, to allow you to be witnessed because your voice matters. And then after you do the same for the others in that space, you do for them what you just asked them to do for you, because they may not have shut you down and silenced you right away and said, I don't want to hear you. Some of them might. But what if after you expressed yourself and shared your vision of the world and what's happening, you allowed the other people in the room to speak their vision and you held space just the same? How would that feel? It would be challenging at first. For many people, it's extremely challenging. It still is challenging for me at times to silently witness others who have very different ideas of the way that something should be. And by all means, show your videos, show your YouTube, show your evidence for your case for why you believe what you believe. But can you do it without the intention of changing and controlling the minds of all of the other people in the room? Can you do it with love in your heart, knowing that you respect the other individuals just like you want them to respect you? Because you don't like it when other people tell you you're wrong and you need to think like this. Now, you might be wrong. I've been wrong at times. And eventually I'm like, oh, I was wrong. But that doesn't matter. In the moment, if we want to become a healthier society culturally, and be able to do more growing and to be able to do more evolving and creating such incredible things, together we can do anything. We can overcome any issue that we find ourselves in as a society when we work together. Like when you look at ants, look at all the work that ants do. One ant can't do it but by themselves, but ants come together. They create this magnificent ant hill, this like elaborate level of caves and things. And bees are the same. Like when they work together, they can create so much more. And it's about being able to be in the same room. Not saying you always have to. You might get, a little steamy and someone needs to leave, and that's fine. And that's healthy, even to be able to recognize you're not able to be in the same space respectfully with one another. Or maybe you don't feel respected, and that's okay too. Maybe you'll just leave in that situation. And I'm not saying to allow people to be mean to you or to disrespect you or to treat you badly. I'm just saying, can you start to approach conversations with your friends and family and coworkers without the intention of controlling their minds and making them think the way you think? And hearing them, truly hearing them so much. There are actually times I think that you might find others in the room change their mind after hearing your statements when you do it with love in your heart. They talk about, the secret ingredient with food can be love. I think the secret ingredient with conversation is also love. Because when you speak with love in your heart and respect for the other people who are present, something magical happens. There's a different way and different energy that the others will start to fall into and behave with. When you share your truth with love, without fear, without anger, without the need to change others, people can hear you more. It makes them more open. And it's not a technique to, change their minds and be like, oh, I found a more effective way to control people's minds. It's just, and honestly, if you're going into it with that mindset, you probably won't reach the level of speaking with love in your heart. Because I'm talking about unconditional love, where you accept that person, even if they think the exact opposite of you at the end of what you're sharing. And you can allow them to say what they're saying. It takes a lot of self-work, a lot of self-development, a lot of healing, old traumas, old wounds, old beliefs, to get to a level where you can also listen with an open mind and an open heart to whatever anyone else wants to share. That's their truth. And you'll find that there are walls that come down. And that rather than feeling like you're yelling at a brick wall, suddenly it vanishes and you see the human being who is your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your grandparent, your cousin, your friend, your coworker. You see the human being, the light, the unique, beautiful light that they are. And that's so empowering. Because you will feel differently. They will feel differently. And it's such an incredible exchange of energy and respect. And people will start to listen and soften and become more vulnerable with each other. And they'll find that it's okay to share their differences of opinions. They'll become more safe. The space becomes more safe and encouraging for an exchange of ideas. And there may be times when you listen with an open heart and open mind to what the other is saying, you might change your mind. You might actually realize what they're saying has a level of truth to it. Because, being a scientist, I can tell you, you'll find papers to support every side of the argument. Pretty much. There's one that says do it, one that says don't. You can find support and evidence for whatever side of the story you want to hold on to. And a good scientist actually knows how to hold both stories and present them as evidence and allow the reader to choose the interpretation. A good scientist can put together what they'll call a science review paper of all of the evidence for a particular topic, and they'll publish a review with both sides of the story and where there's holes in either side, and they'll try to give the true, honest perspective. And that's a difficult thing, to hold both sides of the story and to lovingly present it in an even and equal way. I have a lot of respect for science writers who are able to do that well and in an unbiased way. And I got a little bit into the science world, but back to the spirituality. So that's what Namaste means to me. It means the light in me sees and honors that beautiful, unique light that exists within you, that flame in your heart, that essence of who you are as a human on this planet who lives the amazing life that you live. And there's so much respect that I think is held in those words. So if you ever hear me say that, that's what I mean. I truly mean, and I choose, when I say that, I literally will say the light in me sees and honors the light in you rather than namaste, because I want people to visualize and see. And it's not to say that, even because I realize as I'm saying that, I'm trying to convince people to think a certain way. So I think ultimately the reason I say it like that is because I want to communicate that perspective to others, to allow them to observe it, whether they choose to accept it that way or just hear words and let it just be that. That's okay. But I choose to express myself that way in order to communicate that I do hold this deep respect and love and understanding and acceptance for who it is that I am talking to or who it is that's in my classes. So that is, again, what Namaste means to me. And I encourage you to explore what meaning it might have for you. I don't think there's any right or wrong. But since we're closing this video out, I'll close it the way I do with all my yoga and breathwork classes. The light in me sees and honors the light in each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.